There's two key aspects to the brief. One is in the client's words, let's say. This idea this house needed to be a glorified lock up and live because of their traveling lifestyle. The other interesting aspect of the brief was that it needed to be a house for two people, but also a house for many people, as they're quite sociable. So it needed to be a house that's kind of large enough to do that, but also not necessarily feeling empty when those parties or those gatherings will not happen. My name is Andrea Quagliola, and along with Matteo Monteduro and Emiliano Arroyo, we're the directors and founders of Mark. Location is an interesting one because it is a very desirable location in real estate terms, and it's kind of tucked away around behind the river, near shops and so on. But it is also quite suburban feel to it. Well, it's a street where at certain times of the day there is quite a bit of movement, and that kind of prompts also a kind of response for a design that values privacy as well. Once you enter the front door in continuity with the same path, you have a sort of walkway. It's really there to create an experience of entering the project as well as hosting the majority of the storage. And then you find this space that has a completely different light condition. It is a light condition of an outdoor space because this is now the main space of the house. It is a moment of surprise. Imagine there is this kind of large empty void that hosts all the public areas and in the center of the block. To want it to be this indoor-outdoor transformable sort of hosting type of space, around which there is an array of more private type of areas. The next part that we needed was a system that enabled the spaces, to function as one, which is this moving glazing system by Vitrocsa that can open on the corners and just allow that kind of continuity of space, which is really key. All the kind of engineering that is required in order to move those large panels of glass is all concealed. This idea of customization is interesting because, many manufacturers, they all claim that their products are customizable until you ask them to actually do something that is custom. And then they say that for a reason or another they can't do it. Which I guess fortunately was not the case with Vitrocsa. It's kind of self-evident looking at the space because the purity of the lines of the Vitrocsa glazing systems tune in very well with the purity of the lines of this project. And so that minimum look is possible. The product kind of recedes and the architecture becomes center stage. Been very good working with Vitrocsa. In general, in our work, we try and employ a reduced palette of materials, a harmonized palette of materials, a tonality that connects. This particular project relates to the Iron Reach country, really, of Western Australia, particularly the idea of country, which has this amazing ability of having this sort of base redness, which is something that we somehow engaged with by the use of weathered steel. There's an interesting story about this. As an amazing steel fabricator we worked with, So he created a field, he laid all the steel, and then the steel has been watered like as if it was a field of crops. Has created a sort of base rust. Then when that base rust was ready, the steel was installed. These planks have a significant thickness, and the rust only affects the kind of surface of that plank. There is a bit of a misconception about the idea in general of minimalism, because it's often associated with a kind of sterile environment. But in reality, the minimalism is more to do with a certain purity and harmony of the lines that define the space. So it is the relationship between the geometry, the materiality, and the light that come together, to give presence to this architectural background. The sense of security and privacy that this house gives from the outside. It feels impenetrable, although it is so open. So the idea of lock up and live is actually quite literal. Like you lock the entire house before you leave.